Hello and welcome back to Scottish Independence Podcasts. We have a very special episode for you this week. This is the behind-the-scenes adventures that we had on our trip to Brussels on the 8th and 9th of April as part of the Yes for EU delegation. We are in Belgium, would you believe? Well, say we're there, we haven't got through passport control yet, so assuming we're going to get in. Marlene enjoying the panic of, has she lost her passport? No, she's found it. Excellent. We're making our way to the queue of shame for the people who don't have EU passport.
It makes me so angry that anyway, we'll see. Maybe it won't take too long to get through. But
this is just to prove that we've found a Brexit benefit.
We have, because we've all got through more quickly than Elise.
Comes Elise with her French passport. This is Marlene and I on Place Louise.
Where am I?
Oh, hang on. Place Louise. I know, we've been travelling all day, so we are a little bit dishevelled. We are hungry. We're on the hunt for something to eat.
Yeah.
But it's delightful. It's a beautiful evening, and what a lovely place. Really nice.
We're in the hotel that we're staying in for a couple of nights. We've been out and got us some very nice Belgian beer and
Pizza, very nice.
That was good.
And we've just had a walk around the streets, and it's wonderfully European.
It's
There's trams,
it's good.
people
It's
sitting
lovely.
in pavements and beautiful buildings. It's absolutely lovely.
Yeah, we're over here with the Yes for EU people and a few other folk, also Europe and Scotland people.
Yeah. Also two MEPs,
Two former
MEPs.
MEPs, and such a lot of work has gone on in the background by Yes for EU and Europe and Scotland folk to get this off the ground. But it's here, and there's MEPs have expressed willingness to come along and just have a chat with us. By some miracle, we've managed to get a room booked actually in the European Parliament building,
so
which
exciting.
is just brilliant, because it means these guys work in that building, so they just got to go in the lift and come up and find us. That's no kind of problem, and it means we also can get a chance of having a wee wander around the European Parliament. So that's going to happen tomorrow. We'll be meeting up with them, and some of that will produce material for Yes for EU. They've got an event coming up on the 9th of May, which is Europe Day. That's what we're responsible for.
That's what we're doing. That's our big job on the day. We asked Elise Tallaron from Yes for EU what her hopes were for the visit to the Parliament tomorrow.
For me, I think I'm really pleased that you answered our call to join us in Brussels. It's fantastic to have you all here. And what I want to do tomorrow is get as many voices from as many MEPs as possible in support of Scotland rejoining the European Union. I want to be able, on the 9th of May, to say to the people of Scotland that they are welcome, and that the EU would welcome Scotland back, and also that EU membership is good for Scotland, but it's also good for the EU. So I'm hoping that the MEPs will say that to us, and I also want to hear from MEPs that there are no barriers to Scotland rejoining the EU if it so wishes.
You hear?
And we asked the same question to Heather Anderson, former MEP.
Well, I'm really excited to be here. It's great to be reconnecting with old friends in Europe and trying to strengthen those relationships. We're 13 months away from the next Scottish Parliament election. We need to make sure that Europe plays a big part in that manifesto. We know that support for independence increases when we've got European membership as part of that offer. So partly we're here to make sure that we're starting those talks, starting those discussions and maintaining those relationships.
Also with us on the trip was former MEP Alyn Smith.
It's really great to be here, and this is the Yes movement, reaching the bits that the government and politics can't necessarily do. This is a fantastically organised delegation to go and make sure that the connections are real. I think the Scottish Government needs to be talking much more about independence in Europe, because we're not going it alone. That thing that's often thrown at us on the doorstep. We're joining a bigger team. Brexit Britain's a miserable place, and it's looking like it's going to get worse, and I don't say that with any happiness whatsoever. I don't want to see England have a bad time. I want to see the UK back in the EU as well. But it just seems clearer and clearer to me that the UK is not looking to brook that argument. And in a world where we've got President Trump in the White House, I think we need to find our pals, and we need to make sure that we're in touch with them. The Brits have fallen down the agenda in Brussels, and us with them, and that's a problem. And we need to make sure that people here are aware of what's going on a human level, that we want to be part of the EU, we want to be part of Europe. I want Scotland to be independent so that we can join stuff as ourselves. I don't want to be separate or apart. So we need to keep these contacts fresh. We need to make sure that these friendships endure, because there's a big interest in Scotland's journey. Look at Sweden and Finland with their attitudes to NATO. Look at Norway now. EU membership is now back on the agenda precisely because of what's going on in the wider world. So we're part of that, and we need to make sure that we're here and making sure that we're vocal about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just excited about being able to have the opportunity to talk to MEPs and just tell them about the grassroots organisations that there are in Scotland. And so I'll be wearing my Pensioners for Indy t-shirt. And, it took me a while to decide which t-shirt to put on. But there's all sorts of groups over there, and I don't know if folk over in MEPs or other folk, just European, kind of actually realise we've got those grassroots. So I'm really excited about that.
On the 9th of April, we woke up bright and early and headed for the European Parliament.
Wow, wonderful.
It's the walking and speaking is a bit tricky.
Yes.
Us entering the EU, or re-entering perhaps. And the first thing we see is a huge sign saying democracy in action. Democracy, we'd like some of that.
I couldn't vote.
No, of course. Well, our votes weren't considered.
Yeah, we'll just wait a couple of minutes for Sam and David so they can be in the picture.
Okay. Right, you can take a picture of me holding this flag was at Holyrood when we came out.
Back here.
Yeah, good one.
Very good.
It is a beautiful view.
Oh, fabulous.
So, Andreas, excited to be here at long last?
Very much excited. You can see this big democracy in action here in front of the Altiero Spinelli building of the European Parliament.
Yeah. So did you see a couple of people already, MEPs?
Yes, we saw two MEPs yesterday, Brando Benifei from the Socialists and Democrats group, and Per Holmgren from the Greens. Yeah. Brando is Italian and Per is Swedish.
And that went well?
It went very well. They were very interested to know the situation with Brexit, what people think in Scotland, and they empathize with the situation, and they understand that Scotland's desire to rejoin the EU matters, so to speak.
Yeah. Were you at the meetings as well?
I was, yes.
Yeah. Enjoy them?
Very much. And I think we found that there was a lot of affection for Scotland, and also that there's some agreement that Scotland should be leading the way in the
That's
UK.
Good. Well, of course, Scots think that there's affection for Scots everywhere, really, when everyone likes them. On the taxi coming in, I didn't have time to do it, but I was just working out how to tell them that we were Scottish. Because in France, first thing you do is say "Je suis écossaise."
But that's actually something we discussed with some of the MEPs, because one of the things that one of the questions we got, because we got questions,
yes,
we didn't just
good.
to ask them, was why is there this different sensibility, political understanding of the world between Scotland and England? And we start talking about history and where the fact that Scotland has always been a nation. Yeah. And is in fact one of the most ancient European nations. Yeah. And we discussed the trade and the political agreements over the centuries, and there was a lot of interest in, not a superficial discussion about the policy, but, deep cultural understanding. I think some of the MEPs are actually very interested in the Brexit process and what happened and what not, and they want to understand it better also from the perspective of a Scottish person.
So it's great, yeah.
Guys, in the photo. Okay, you come in.
See, Scotland.
Scotland.
In Europe.
Yeah. Scotland the brave. In Brussels. Scotland. Hello. Very emotional moment here in front of our Parliament.
That's what I thought. Emma was saying to Heather, it's just quite emotional.
It is. You really
can
a lot of
feel
crying on these steps, crying when we got here, crying when we left, crying when we took that famous photo with all the candles to keep the light on.
Keep the light on.
Yeah,
for
so
Scotland.
it's terrible.
And behind us, democracy in action, and we've had our democracy denied.
That's right. That's right. When we made sure we came for that last month, it was saying this is a democratic deficit for Scotland if we are not at the table to vote against the withdrawal agreement, which is what we managed to do. Yeah, we should not be standing on the outside.
Is this your first time back in the area since?
Because you get the bit of light really. I was sort of a bit surprised how emotional I felt as we walked up here.
Just walking in the
kind of
back
thought
actually
I might,
means.
but
And look at badges. Hope we get to keep those.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're taking a photograph of it.
I love the country, I love people. I'm very passionate for Scotland. Yes, for history. Yeah.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. We want to come back.
Yeah, we want.
Possible.
That was nice.
That was lovely.
Because all started.
Good idea, isn't it?
Yeah, we could just say we're standing here greeting for Scotland.
Yeah.
Friendly Italian chap who supports Scotland being back in the EU. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for you. Go Scotland.
Yes.
Last night we had this wonderful meal with people who were welcoming us. Around the table there's someone from France, someone from Germany, someone from Italy, someone from Canada, and they all talk passionately about Scotland and the need for Scotland to be independent. And I just wish people in Scotland could hear how strongly people support us, because they might think differently about voting for
Actually, it's
independence.
so good to hear that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Again, very emotional.
Really emotional. I know, it must have been.
We're on the 15th floor. Marlene and I set to work setting up a little film studio on the couch outside the meeting room.
So that's us set up then. Scottish Independence Podcasts moving video team.
International
video team. That's one half of it. And here is the other half of it.
From the steps upwards, we're getting actually quite a lot of attention. But everybody's very nice,
Italian.
There was an Italian chap came over and went, "Go Scotland." This is it. You step outside of Scotland and you get a completely different perspective of how we are seen. And we are not seen as the downtrodden little region of the UK. Yes, stay in your box and you couldn't possibly run your own country narrative that we're used to. And here's people going, "Oh, we miss you. Oh, it'd be wonderful to have you back. Go Scotland." And if
It's this Italian chap, he just saw us with the flag out there.
Yeah. And then
Starts saying thumbs up, we start chatting, and we've got him on the video.
yeah, in fact, I think we might have invited him home, I'm not sure.
So that was Valentina, who's come bearing gifts. I haven't looked to see what's in the gifts yet, but
We can take them on the plane.
I can watch it on the both of those. That's what you were saying you needed. Yeah.
And this is our room in the European Parliament where our delegation is waiting a little bit nervously for their first MEP visitor. We had a bit of debate as to whether we would film the whole conversation, but in the end we decided to leave them a safe space where they could have a sort of free and open conversation, and then they would come out and record a message to the people of Scotland afterwards. Our first interviewee was Austrian MEP Thomas Waitz.
My name's Thomas Waitz, sounds like a bit Tom Waits, but I'm an Austrian citizen. I'm an organic farmer in the south of Austria and the north of Slovenia. I'm a member of European Parliament since 8 years now, and my priorities are foreign policy, so AFET, mainly towards the Balkans, or enlargement as such, and agricultural policies and everything around climate, energy, nature. That's where I mainly work here.
Could I ask you, first of all, perhaps, do you have a message for the people of Scotland?
I very much regret that Scotland is not part of the European Union anymore. I was enjoying so much working with all the Scottish MEPs here in the House. A very important European voice is missing here in Parliament, and we still keep the seats free, and we're not giving up the hope that you finally manage to rejoin.
Fantastic, thank you. And apart from the matter of our independence, do you see any barriers to Scotland rejoining the European Union?
No, actually not. Scotland has implemented the whole European acquis. You were a master scholar of European standards. Scotland could, if Scotland makes that possible within UK, Scotland could join in a fast-track procedure. It would take less than 2 years.
Fantastic.
Fantastic.
And what would that route be?
Well, first of all, you need to solve your mandate within the United Kingdom. And in the moment you would be an independent state, you could immediately apply for accession talks. And what I know from the administration and from my colleagues, there would be a big welcoming mood to go into fast-track negotiations to rejoin you to the European Union.
And from what I could gather from the chat in the room there, you yourself might think about coming over for a visit to Scotland?
Yes, I've been to Scotland several times. It's a fantastic country to visit, fantastic people, and I'm open to come over again, yes, because I think it's important that citizens understand that Scotland is very welcome here in the European Union, and I think that message needs to be spread.
Fantastic. Could you maybe say a few words about how Brexit affected both the European Union and your constituency in particular?
Well, Brexit mainly affected UK itself. For the European Union, it was hurtful to lose an important partner or important partners because it's 4 nations at the end of the day that we lost with this one Brexit vote. And especially painful was to see that big parts of United Kingdom actually voted in favor of remaining in the European Union, and that vote was not counted or not taken into account the way it should have been.
Are you aware that we're still campaigning in Scotland to get back in? Is that well known?
Yes, Scotland is still known here as very pro-European, and we're keeping channels, and we're not giving up.
Neither are we.
Yeah,
absolutely not. And as a thank you, we'd like you to take away a copy of Scotland the Brief, which describes what Scotland can bring to Europe.
It looks like I need to be convinced. You're too late.
Not at all. It's
Maybe you've got a table with sugary
It's a useful reference source.
I will use it to convince others.
Exactly.
Fantastic.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
So we've just talked to our first MEP, and I went into the discussion room and listened in and chipped in a bit, and it was just really interesting what we're talking about. You know, one idea being maybe, you know, if MEPs come over and we could have a rally. Well, we could have a rally, but as he said, well, actually, what would be easier to organise and probably more useful would be 1 or 2 people coming over a period of months and talking to people, and just sort of telling them what we can tell them about what it would be like for Scotland and EU and how much we'd like to have you. And they do have to do that outside of campaigning time, so there's a time I think that would have to be done before January of next year because of Holyrood. Brilliant.
Because of the scheduling of the appointments, there was a bit of a gap between the first interview and the next person arriving, so Marlene and I could not resist going for a little wander around the building, and what a beautiful building it is. Coffee in the European Parliament Cafe. It's official. EU cups. This is lovely. We're sitting all around us, people chatting away in all different languages. It just struck us walking around the building. There's so many open spaces here. You want people to work together, and it's all about cooperation and sharing information. And the building is designed to make it easy to do that.
Yeah, this is just fantastic. So open air and spacious and.
Another lovely aspect of the European Parliament is that there are art exhibitions and ceramics displays. We came across one and got chatting to the lady in charge.
Where's the exhibition from?
Versailles is a part of Portugal. They are all made by hand. They all very a lot of love, and some of these people are really famous in there. like this one and that one. That one is the devil.
The devil.
Yeah, it's definitely the devil. And it is a representation of supernatural things.
We're from Scotland.
Scotland, yeah.
So we're here meeting up with some MEPs because we want to rejoin again. Become independent.
Oh,
rejoin.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I'm so happy.
Oh,
I'm really, really happy. I have 2 friends from Wales.
Uh-huh.
I really wanted to join again.
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
it's just good for you. I mean, it's just good for you.
In Scotland, we all voted to stay. Every
But
part of Scotland voted to stay in the EU, and England didn't.
I've heard very bad news from Wales, obviously, but the prices are crazy high, and the things are really restricted.
It's a mess. It's just a kind of a mess.
We knew it was going to be terrible.
Everyone knew, but
Mr. Farage said, "Oh no, it will be wonderful."
I hope you're successful. I really want to visit again. You do our best.
And back in the interview room, Elise was introducing her team to the next MEP visitor.
We do rallies, street stalls, etc. And I've got with me Sam and David from Yes for EU.
Nice to meet you.
And then you've got my colleagues from Europe for Scotland.
Thank you. So I'm Andrea. I'm from Europe for Scotland. Europe for Scotland is a pan-European campaign of European citizens that want to express a sense of solidarity to Scotland post-Brexit. And we would like the EU to take a proactive stance.
Unfortunately, Spanish MEP Diana Riba wasn't able to stay to be interviewed, although she did have a good chat in the room. We had more luck with our next interviewee, Vicent Marza Ibanez MEP.
I'm Vicent Marza, MEP from the Valencian country. Compromís is my party, and I'm here in the INTA committee, International Affairs, and also in TRAN, and Vice President of the Housing Committee.
Do you feel Scotland will be an asset to the European Union?
Yes, of course. And
you're not allowed to say no to that one.
Yes, of course, and I think it's of course a question of democracy. So because there's the will of democracy in Scotland, and so as you want to be part of EU, I do not see why you cannot be part of the European Union. So of course it's an asset, but of course it's a question of democracy.
Would you have a message for the people of Scotland?
I will say that you must continue fighting for democracy and fighting to be a part inside from the European Union, and of course that we are ready to welcome you again, and we want you to come again. So that it could be a pleasure to have you again in the European Union. Yeah.
Westminster, English politicians are sort of telling us that it would take probably 10 years to get back into the EU, and is that true?
I don't know how many years, but I know that there's the willing. It must be. So it must happen. So I think that we have to work together in order to reduce this kind of years that they say that it will be 10 or more years. I think this is not the problem. How many years? I think the problem is not to be here in the European Union. So we have to work together in order to have you here. So if we have the will and we have the political will, you can see that we arrange a lot of people, a lot of crises that they said that they were impossible, like the COVID or the Ukraine war and everything, and we responded. So we can create specific laws, specific ways to come Scotland back to UN. No? Okay. Thank you. You're welcome.
Time for lunch, so Marlene and I went off for another wander, and this time we found the Holy Grail, the actual debating chamber of the European Parliament. Now, funnily enough, the doors were locked, so all we could do was peer through the glass, and if that's not a metaphor for Scotland outside the EU, I don't know what is.
Just walking away from the debating chamber. This is obviously the bit where they interview people. Loads and loads of very, very nice equipment.
And we've got a camera on a stick.
We've got a camera on a stick. Well, I think that works.
So we grabbed a sandwich for lunch and just had time to realise how cheap everything is compared to Brexit Britain. And then we were back for our next interview.
I am Olga Perez Vitoria, and I'm an advisor to the Greens EFA group here at the European Parliament, and I follow mainly culture committee related topics such as education, culture, media, youth and sports.
That sounds like a really good job.
Yes,
sounds like a great job. And culture's
not boring. Yes,
very important to us, of course, European culture and Scottish culture. What message would you say to the people of Scotland about European culture and being a part of it?
Yeah, well, I was in Edinburgh 2 years ago in a mission with the Culture Committee, and it was sad on the one side to see the impact the Brexit was having on the education sector and the cultural sector. Yes. On the other side, it was very motivating to see how thrilled the sector was to meet somebody from the European Union, an institution, in this case the Culture Committee from the European Parliament. It was interesting, but again, sadly interesting because of the situation. But I understand that Scotland, in my mind, is still part of Europe. I mean, it's a nation that has always been very welcoming, not only to students coming from all over Europe, but only as well to the, let's say, the art sector, the festivals. So it's lose-lose for everybody here.
Yeah, exactly. It's lose-lose, isn't it? I mean, and hopefully it will be win-win once we get back in. I mean, we have to do the first step first to, get independence achieved first.
Indeed,
but
yes.
From what we've been picking up, pretty well what the kind of thing you've just been saying, there's a lot of positivity and a kind of waiting at the moment until we do the independence stage of it, but then a big welcome to come back, we want you back, and that seems to be the case, you reckon?
Indeed, of course. Well, yes, of course. For those who have been here for some time, we see how the job that those MEPs and colleagues have been doing in the past. This feeling of being a member of the European project. I mean, it was a strong feeling. It is a strong feeling, I think. Yeah. So it's a shame because nowadays this is something that we appreciate even more, unfortunately. So we would be happy to, of course, see Scotland back because, as I said, it's a nation that is very pro-European, and this is, if it was important when Brexit actually materialized, it's even more important now to have here as many pro-European nations as possible. Pro-democracy.
And I mean, there's been a shift in the European kind of voting pattern. This Parliament here is different from what it used to be in terms of a bit of a slide to the right. So hopefully if we were back, we would at least be a little part of opposing. Yeah.
And we would appreciate greatly that kind of help as well. I must say that way. Anyhow, as we said, we need to be work on or create the environment again, so that in the near future this is again a win-win situation and not a lose-lose one as we have now for you and for us here as well.
Thank you very much.
Well, good luck, and we wait for you here. I mean, this is very telling. I think nobody else can say anything else. I mean, this is
it's going up.
Olga was pointing to a Believe in Scotland leaflet, which said that support for rejoining the EU is 69% in Scotland.
And this is Hana.
Hello, Coppieters. Well, Coppieters Foundation is the foundation related to the EFA party. So we are the think tank of the party. It's called Coppieters because of a Flemish politician. We've been alive like 20 years almost. So it's been 20 years we advocate for self-determination, and the right of the people exactly to self-determine. So we are very happy to have you here.
I mean, we really appreciate the...
Yes, we very much do. For us, it was a big thing when you left, because Alyn was there for a long time.
For us, it was a big thing.
Yeah, I believe more than for us.
Came across the square this morning. It's so emotional.
I can imagine.
We hear this is just awful, you know.
I can imagine.
And yeah, well, I'm sure you know, it was Scotland. Every part of Scotland voted to stay.
Yeah, I know this.
And
how do you feel young people relate to this? What was their reaction?
Well, they were affected more than anybody because it was the opportunities for them were huge. We're this new generation who only knew being in Europe because they were born after we went in the 70s and their entire lives.
I have friends who studied with me because I did my studies all over Europe, and I had quite a few Scottish friends, and we were studying together when it happened in 2016. It was quite of a shock because it changed their completely their educational path. So they had the freedom to do a master somewhere or to do a PhD that was not there anymore, and the visa thing and everything. So it was quite shocking for them.
It was, and my daughter, she was at university early 2000s. She spent about 6 months to 8 months in Holland. On just a grant that came through, no problem.
I think people don't understand this privilege until they don't have it anymore.
No, yes, that's right. Exactly. And part of this is to show that there's support outside of Scotland for us being back in the EU, and you know,
there's even a group, they're putting a case to the UN that Scotland's a colony.
Trying to be decolonised.
It's kind of like, probably not true, really.
It depends how you define a colony, right?
It kind of feels like it. Anyway, they've got as far as being accepted into the committee, UN committee that deals with these things, has had a petition section, and they are going to look at it. So I don't think it'll work, but good on them for trying.
Yeah, exactly. At least you try. You make some noise. That's the thing about it.
And that's where the political pressure rather than legal.
Well, let's hope this helps.
Yes.
It's not just about the MEPs, it's about everybody else.
It makes such a difference, isn't it? It's so... I mean, there hasn't been one negative response from anybody once they find out that we're Scottish. So I just started off all conversations by saying we're Scottish.
Fantastic response so far, so good.
But that's what you need, is to take a look from the outside in, because we just see what we get presented with, and it's so different.
That's our mission today.
That was the thing we were saying about the agreement, whether you need an agreement or not, and that Scotland is exceptional, so anyway.
Yeah, the association agreement, we had a long chat about that, didn't we?
And the goodwill towards Scotland as an organisation.
Our next interview is with two young policy advisors who had a message for the young people of Scotland.
Hi, my name is Charlotte. I work for Nela Riel, who is an MEP and also the chair of the Cult Committee. And I'm an upper policy advisor for her.
Hi, my name is Rina. I work for Damien Böselager, who is the German MEP, also from the Vote Party, who sits with the Greens. He has been in the Parliament since 2019, and so am I. And he is also in the UK delegation in the European Parliament.
So what do you know about Scotland and the fact we're trying to get back into the EU? Do you know about that?
I can just very quickly say that I was here when the end of 2019, when there was this vote, and it was a very emotional moment for me.
For us.
I can imagine for you, and I remember seeing the plenary and seeing the differences, the emotions, the happiness on one side, and of course I knew of Scotland before, but I think it was there where I understood, okay, this is very split, this is very emotional, it's not very well informed of how the people feel there. And I think since then, I mean, I also have a lot of friends from either UK, Ireland, in Belgium, but also abroad. And I just think, and I personally also come from Kosovo, so I know how it is when things are a bit divided and your voice is not really heard. So I could only hope that Scotland comes back, because I think the people truly want it.
If you had a message to young people in Scotland, what would you say to the young people in Scotland?
That's a really good question. I mean, maybe first we
we feel your pain, because I think Brexit has not only been difficult for that side, for your side, but also for our side. I mean, I studied in the UK. I studied in the UK actually before Brexit and also after Brexit, and for the second time I had to get a visa, and it was all very strange. So I think I can only imagine what it feels like from the other side, where there are so many hurdles now and so many things that are stripped from you as young people in Scotland that we can still enjoy in the EU. So we are waiting for you to come back.
Yes. And what do you think the benefits will come from having our young people back in Scotland? Because it's not all what's good for Scotland, it's also, is that good for the EU as well?
Of course. Absolutely. I mean, culturally, I think Scotland is a very interesting and very rich place, and having that exchange, and I mean, any cultural exchange is always beneficial for both sides, but having that exchange is something that we're really missing now. It's an integral part of European history and lived still through those people and carried through those people that we cannot reach as easily anymore, so to say.
Exactly, and just having, as Charlotte said, the people here is also enriching for us. And I think it's important because they were kind of cut off, and especially I always feel bad for young people, be it educational reasons, be it tourism, they're always cut off drastically from these things, and it's not fair. Just very simple, it's not fair. Just because of, politicians and politics, in the end, young people lose a lot of opportunities. And, life is not that long, as we know.
Obviously, we're not in the young bracket any longer, but even coming in to Brussels yesterday, and we can't just walk through the EU citizens. I mean, even that has
of course, it makes you feel immediately as if you're an alien or you don't belong or there's something wrong with you, but it's not the case. So,
And I think also, I mean, what I hear now, young Scottish people are such strong pro-Europeans, which is also something that we really need desperately, and especially now that the idea is put to question every now and then, also by young people, by anti-democratic forces and so on. We need more people who are actually convinced by the European idea as well.
Yes, they're pro-Europe, they're pro-democracy, they're pro-independence as well.
Yeah.
But our issue with our young people is trying to persuade them to vote. What gets you to go and do it? What encourages you?
I think for young people, the moment you realize that it affects your life, so let's say be it an educational trip, be it like a friend's trip that you want to do in Europe, but you're cut off, so that's when you realize, okay, my vote is super important because it can have an effect in my decisions and my friends' decisions. So the moment you touch people on a personal level, I think that's how you remind them, okay, I have to vote, I have to have my stance. So that would be my idea.
I think in general, Volt is very pro-democratic enlargement. So everyone who's in our direct neighborhood who wants to join the EU should be able to work towards joining the EU. And so since Scotland very clearly wants that to a large degree, I think Volt is everything is just supportive.
And I mean, from our side, it's just really important that your voices, yours and others, people here from the Parliament, but actually all over Europe, are kind of heard saying that. So it's great. It's kind of great hearing what you've been saying.
Absolutely. We're happy to push for that. So
please.
Just call us.
Very much.
Same for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And our visit wouldn't have been possible without Valentina, Catalonian Scot.
So it's great, Valentina. It's so nice being able to, meet you, but it gives us another chance to say thank you so much for helping get this meeting off the ground and organised. And what have your own impressions been today as people?
Well, I think they've been incredibly positive. I think everyone who we have spoken to has a clear will of Scotland coming back to the EU. I think there's a clear willingness to work as well. It's just not empty words, which is really reassuring. And I think there's a clear roadmap as well of the people who want to be part of the return of Scotland and what they can do for us and what we can do for Scotland as well. And I think for the moment it's been incredibly positive, and mainly the energy that the people are giving, how much they miss us and how much our Scottish MEPs are missed. It's incredibly positive.
So if you've got sort of message to the people of Scotland who are going to be watching this video, what would you say?
Well, I would say we're waiting for you. Hasta llevar. And soar alba en Visca Catalunya.
Lovely.
No, but yes, mainly the Scots are European. This is this is who we are, we belong here. Our nation is European and we shouldn't have never been left out of the EU. So it's magnificent that at some point we will be able to come back and we will come back as an independent country.
One of the most moving things today, that when we came just to the entrance and you turn around and there's that banner, Democracy in Action, and we've been denied our democracy, and yet, that's what this place is all about.
Yeah, I mean, democracy, as Andrea has said many times, democracy is under attack in here, in the world, in many places. As a Catalan, I've suffered democracy being under attack many times. And it's a bit scary of how easy that is. Yeah. I think people don't realize how quickly democracy can be taken away from you.
It's a fragile
and the impact and how hard it is to get it back. Because it's very easy to remove, but it's hard to gain.
And the EU is not immune to that, is it? I mean, you've got those populist parties and representatives and governments popping up.
I think the EU is a clear representation of the reality of many nationalities. Yeah. And we've had this extreme right wave for now a couple of years, but people thought it was so far away that we were all safe, we were fine. And now you see the polls even in Scotland, even in Wales, about reform, about extreme right getting into parliament, and not but just one or two MSPs, so by a full group. Yes, and that's scary because it's the first entrance. Once you get your foot on the door, the rest is very hard to close that door again.
Yes.
And I think we've given for a long time, the media and the platforms have given for a long time a big platform to these extremists and to these threats to our democracy. And they claim that separatist or independentist people are a threat to democracy, but to me, they are the biggest threat to our democracy.
Yeah, so I just really loved it when you said just now we're just waiting for you to come back.
Yes, I can't wait for Scotland to come back, yes.
And some last words from Alyn and Heather. So that's the end of our long, fabulous day with Parliament. How do you feel it went?
Well, I think it couldn't have gone better. We're emotional because it is so wonderful to be here and be welcomed and, appreciated by so many people who've made time to come and talk to us. It is very emotional. We've got some concrete plans to follow up on to make sure that we don't let this slip, that it becomes a major part of the campaign for next year and that we keep this momentum going. How do you feel, Alyn?
Yeah, absolutely. It's getting any time in an MEP's diary on a committee week is just difficult to do. So blown away by the range of people who came to speak to us, the support that we had in terms of Scotland can be a good news story for the EU. Here's an ancient nation that wants to be part of the solidarity, the fraternal aspects of the EU, the rules-based international order, progressive politics. Independence is a good news story for the EU, and the EU is a bit neuralgic about independence, so they won't get into an internal matter as they'll see it. But the door's open once we do, and that's really important for folks back home to realise as well, that there is huge support for Scotland coming in. Look at the wider picture. Iceland's having a debate about EU membership, Norway's having a debate about EU membership in a way that they haven't for decades. Look at the way that Sweden and Finland joined NATO within a heartbeat after events changed. So there's a tide of history that's on our side, I think, there really is. And the MEPs get that. The MEPs are about working together, they're about solidarity. So yeah, it's been fabulous. I feel myself tearing up a wee bit. I'm speaking.
I think it's that thing about, we thought part of the conversation is, can we come back? Could we come back? Would it be difficult? And the discussion today is about, when will you be back? And by the way, can you bring England with you? So we have a job to keep up the momentum and make sure that we support the UK to choose to align itself with Europe, and that we keep fighting to make sure that we in Scotland are back at the heart of Europe where we belong. I think the other thing that was absolutely brilliant about this trip is it was organised by the grassroots, and we were invited to come along. We're absolutely delighted to come along. So if there are future events, we would be hoping to work with Europe for Scotland and Scotland for the EU. And we gave all the MEPs who came this book, they're really pleased with it. We shared all the statistics. So we want to do as much as possible to support the grassroots, get this message across to everybody in Scotland. So thank you for having us.
Yeah, this really has been what the Yes movement needs to do more of, working together across the barriers, across whatever perspectives we've got. This has been a fantastic team effort and delighted to support it, really delighted.
So a big thank you to all the MEPs who gave us their time in a very busy week for them, particularly to those who stayed behind to be interviewed by me and Marlene. And of course, part of our responsibility was to produce some film clips for an event that Yes for EU were putting on 9th of May, which was a really good event. It was live streamed. You can watch it on their YouTube channel. We'll put the link in the notes below. But here's a little taster from that event, including a personal message from MEP Terry Reintke.
Hey friends from Scotland, happy Europe Day. And as you might know, it's not only the day of Europe today, but also my birthday. So it's always a double reason for me to be very, very happy. And I wanted to send you a quick message just saying that we still miss you, we still love you. And of course, we would love to have you back in the European Union. We see the world around us at the moment, and I think it's becoming more clear than ever that we have to work together as closely as possible, and for that Europe has to move closer together. And of course, having Scotland back in the European Union would be fantastic to do that. I wish all of you a great event, fantastic discussions, but also great festivities for this Day of Europe.
Of course, Marlene and I were delighted to have front row seats at the event.
In St Augustine's, with Fiona and other friends, lots of friends round about, and it's great, isn't it?
It's lovely. There's wine and nibbles, there's a whole selection of people at the tables, there's a sense of anticipation, everybody's greeting each other like long lost friends. It's very good. We've got some good speakers. I'm looking forward to it, and it's a beautiful summer evening. Absolutely delightful.
I must say Edinburgh has rather kind of shown itself in all its delights with the weather that's outside. It was brilliant, actually. Yeah, great.
Here's a little section from the Q&A session which followed.
You were all electrified by going to Brussels, as I was when I first went there too. I wonder if our leadership in the independence parties should take a visit to Brussels and be electrified as you were about being part of Europe. It would help electrify younger people again in the same way as this lady has talked about here. We really need very visionary and energetic leadership running up to the Holyrood election. Thank you.
Young people, obviously, I want to talk more about them because young people face a lot of challenges. There's a lot on their minds, housing, education, climate change, etc. So how do we make the European Union and the prospect of being back in the EU something that they talk about and think about and that will drive their votes?
Somebody once said that it's a real shame if you're not interested in politics, because politics is very interested in you. And for young people, I mean, the reason they've got no chance of ever buying their own home is because of politics. The reason, I've got a lot of relatives down in England, as you can tell from my accent. The reason people leave university with a millstone of debt around their neck is because of politics. And politics can be changed, but only if you get into it and, lobby and campaign and, all the rest of it.
Well, I think we have seen in the videos that there is quite a lot of allies in Europe and there is quite a lot of sympathy. And I think one thing that we need to all keep in mind is that there is never going to be a lack of support from Europe. The problem is not Europe. The problem is London. This is also important when we think about the young people lack of motivation. Now, in my professional life, I study motivation. I'm a neuroscientist, and I see that when people don't see anything that is possible to reach, they get demotivated. And if you think that people have been campaigning for stopping climate change, and now we are going backwards in the fight against climate change, they are every Saturday in the street for Gaza, and the UK government keeps selling weapons to the Israeli government. So people in Scotland campaign for independence, the referendum never comes. These things are depressing politically. And we are seeing now in England in particular a rise of people that don't work, don't go to university, don't do any professional training. This is a sign of political and professional apathy. So how do you change that? But I would say to you in particular, don't wait for a leader. Be the leader of the movement. Go around, campaign, bring flyers, talk to young people, tell them, let's do something together.
No comprehension about the total value and worth of our energy, our green energy. An independent Scotland would have a very, very strong export and cooperation with Europe on that. But Westminster's stealing a march.
Yep.
It's already laying cables down the North Sea. They're doing deals with the EU right now to take interconnectors across the shortest span across from Norfolk. Where are the politicians? When are the SNP going to grab that and not have a repeat of the Macron report, which hid the value of Scottish oil from us for 30 years?
Yep.
And the opportunities for young people, cooperation with universities in Europe to develop our wave and tidal. What's happening from Westminster on that? Absolutely nothing.
Scotland's got all of the energy and none of the power. And as a councillor, I'm sitting in meetings being advised of the steps that NIS were making, the National Energy Systems Operator, and how they're doing all the engineering to extract the energy from Scotland and send it south. So I'm acutely conscious of the scale of the extraction that is going on at the moment. And it's like the situation with Europe. If we were an independent in Europe, we would be trading with the European Union. That asset would be valued. At the moment, that asset is being extracted and we're paying higher energy prices than anybody else. So yes, I completely share your frustration. That will be a campaigning issue.
When I was MP for Stirling, I would get emails from pensioners who could see the Brazedoon wind farm from their house saying, why the hell are my energy bills going up? Has the wind stopped blowing? Has wind got more expensive? The UK is operating to a deeply broken system. If we are going to be Europe's green renewable powerhouse, we need to do things differently than we're doing, because the UK model is not going to deliver what we need. It's also not going to deliver the social outcomes we need in terms of cheaper energy costs. So that is something I am deeply committed to, and I commit to you now that energy is going to be absolutely front and centre of the Holyrood campaign. I don't want to see us just campaign on being the government of Scotland in a devolved context. I want to talk about an independent Scotland in Europe and how we can change things.
Virtually everything we've heard about in the room tonight, you would simply have no idea of it if you focused on London-dominated media. What can we or any of us do to try and circumvent that? Is there anything we can do? Because it's really quite a conspiracy of silence at the moment. It's quite dreadful.
Yeah, I mean, on the point of the media, obviously it's a problem, but at the same time, there are some solutions. Tell people to read the National. Read the Byland Times, read YouTube channel, follow Independence Live, follow other media. When we launched our campaign in 2021, we published our open letter in 10 European newspapers. European newspapers are inclined to talk about Scotland, and even more so since Brexit. So if the UK media fail, read, listen, and promote other media. There is plenty in the world.
Never underestimate the power of conversation, one-to-one conversation. So I consistently find every time we're out on the street talking to people, you can chip away. They can be changed, but only through debate and dialogue and talking to people. So that's why we need as many people as possible to be joining activist groups and getting out there on the street and having those one-to-one conversations with people.
I was deeply, deeply proud to support a cross-party grassroots movement effort into Brussels. It wasn't my delegation, it wasn't Heather's delegation, it was Yes for EU and Europe for Scotland's delegation. And that's where I think we need to get back to. COVID knocked us sideways, all sorts of things have knocked us sideways. Activism will breed activity. Be that change you want to see, and I am so proud to support, and I offer my unending support to Europe for Scotland and Yes for EU, because if it's about getting Scotland back into the EU, we might not be entirely sure of the roadmap, but we know where the destination is. That's half the battle. You're part of that, and it's been really exciting to be part of this project and part of what's going to come next. It's so exciting. Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Happy Europe Day, everybody. Thanks for listening, everybody. Hope you enjoyed that. Don't forget to subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're listening on YouTube, you can click the little bell and you get a reminder whenever we put out a new episode, which is every Friday.
And sign up for our mailing list. You can do that from the website, and we always send one out at the beginning of each month to tell you what's happening. Last but not least, you can buy us a coffee on coffee.com.
And we'll catch you later. Bye now.